Hey everyone, it's Ivan over here on TFBTV, here today to talk to you about a pretty awesome turnkey precision rifle package for under $1,300. Taking a step back, I was talking with the guys over at TFB about doing a review on some sort of turnkey precision rifle package, something that you could put together for under a certain price threshold and it would reach out like solidly to 1,000 yards, for example. And well, Savage happens to be one of the sponsors of TFBTV, and so is Bushnell. So it was like, all right, let's try those. Granted, kind of a mixed bag. Like, it is a sponsor, but if the thing doesn't shoot or if it doesn't perform, then it doesn't perform. But ultimately, pretty pleased with this package overall. Let's take a look at what our sub $300 package is getting us. At the heart of it, we have this rifle, which is the Savage 110 Tactical Desert. It is their 110, which is their long action, as opposed to their Model 10 short action, and has a bunch of good stuff going for it. I'll get into deeper. Price-wise though, you can find this guy for around 620 bucks. As far as an optic, opted for this. It is the Bushnell Nitro 4-16. It has the deploy Mil Reticle in it. Price-wise, right around, I believe, 550 bucks you can find them for usually. Rings, they sent me the rings with this optic. And Tasco, I believe, falls under the umbrella of Bushnell. They're like sister companies or something. Probably wouldn't have been my #1 choice for rings, but they sent them out with it. Rings, you can get these guys for about 24 bucks. They are 1-inch or 30mm rings. They basically have a little spacer if you're going to use a 1-inch scope in there, but that's what's on here. In addition to that, we have a Magpul Sling. I believe it's their MS1, about 32 bucks. And up here, we have this bipod, pretty cheap bipod. It is the CVLife, little, I believe, 6 to 9-inch as far as how much it expands. Sub 20 bucks. I think it's maybe like 18 bucks or something like that on Amazon. In addition to that, we have our Sling Swivels down here, about 8 bucks off of Amazon. And yeah, that is pretty much brings us to somewhere south of 1,300 bucks. I want to say it's around like 1,250 or something like that, but that's what we have. Keep in mind, the Surefire muzzle brake is not included. When this rifle comes stock, it's going to have a thread protector. It has a threaded barrel. I ended up putting this on there to do some testing with it. I'm not going to crank it off for the sake of showing you what this thing looks like stock, but I will speak to it more later on. We'll go ahead and start taking a look at our rifle first. This, of course, being the Savage 110 Tactical Desert. 110 meaning we have their long action as opposed to their Model 10s, which is a short action. This right here is 24-inch barrel chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. With it, there's a couple really important things when it comes to wanting some sort of precision rifle. One of them, chief among the reasons, is the stock. So this is their AccuStock, and it also has their AccuFit system. AccuStock is basically a free-floated stock. There's a bunch of rigid material through here, aluminum, I believe, and stock is formed around it. And so you have a pretty lightweight, but at the same time rigid stock that's going to free float your barrel for you. Especially important once we load our bipod or anything like that, still free floating. We're not pushing our barrel into it, creating input for any shots we're taking. Additionally, with the AccuFit, we can adjust spacers back here for length of pull, as well as this comb height, so that we can go ahead, when we shoulder this thing, we're immediately lined up looking directly through our optic. That is really important. Honestly, it boggles my mind that people still sell basically crap stocks for rifles made to have an optic, and there's no like comb height on them. It's way down here like a traditional stock for like iron sights. Doesn't work. So this right here saves us from getting a rifle that we would immediately throw the stock away. That right there is pretty important. Some other important features with respect to the rifle and the stock is the fact it comes with bottom metal. So we actually have a detachable magazine. Rather than having like a rotary magazine internally that we just jam rounds into, we got this guy. Comes with one Magpul 10-round AICS pattern magazine. I say 10 round, it's really 7 rounds. Why do I say that? Well, in my experience, sample size of 1, but what usually happens, it'll consistently feed 7 rounds. After that, the last 2 or 3 rounds, I find myself having to basically push the top of the round down so that it pushes the back of it up, so that it'll actually strip it to load. Why does it do that? My guess is there's not enough spring tension in there. I don't know. At one point, I tried stretching the spring out. It didn't help. It's a Magpul 7-round magazine. It is what it is. Another important thing is scope base. It is a EGS, I think. Probably mispronouncing that or misnaming it. Big picture though, it is a 20 MOA scope base. Why is that important? Well, a lot of optics ultimately are going to run out of elevation depending on how far you push out. So with that 20 MOA, it's basically raising everything up. So when you first zero, you're bringing your reticle down, it would be, I guess. So as we go out further and further distances, say 1,000 yards, we still have plenty of elevation in our optic. Granted, if you're shooting 300-400 yards, probably don't need it, but this comes with it. It's pretty nice. Additionally, this has the AccuTrigger. It's adjustable. Frankly, I haven't adjusted at all. It's done a great job for me. Nice and clean, probably right around 2.5, well, probably about 3 pounds. But really clean, no issues whatsoever for me. Lastly, one quick note on the stock, comes with 2 front mounts, allowing you to attach a sling, this Magpul 1 for example, as well as a bipod up front. This CVLife Bipod is kind of a piece of junk. Having said that, it's an amazing bipod for $20. Basically, it gives you adjustment from 6 to 9 inches. It doesn't adjust any type of swivel or anything like that. And it can kind of be a pain, but for 20 bucks, honestly, it did a really good job for me. Right here is our Bushnell Nitro 4-16 by 44. Back here, we have our adjustment for our magnification. Moves really smooth in between 4 and 16 power. Right here, we have cap turrets. If we undo this one, right here, we have our windage. You can see all of our adjustments. You can basically undo this piece and float the turret. I'll talk about that more later. But ultimately they're capped, not made to make adjustments on the fly. That is fine because this one right here actually has the Mil Reticle, which allows you to pretty much do all of your work inside of it. I did a full review over at kitbadger.com, but I will go ahead and hit the high points real quick. Again, we have our elevation as well as our windage, both capped. Over on this side, we have our parallax adjustment from 10 yards out to 300 and then infinity. Right here we can undo this if we want, sunshade, comes with lens covers, and as you can see, we got our Tasco rings. I will say, to their credit, after adjusting them, I marked them with paint, didn't come loose, and they have held zero incredibly well for me. One of the most vital aspects of this optic is the fact that the deploy Mil Reticle is first focal plane, allowing you to engage targets or even mill them at any magnification. What this means is as you move the magnification, the reticle changes proportionately. So 1 mil will always truly be 1 mil. Now that we've outlined basically what we have going for us with respect to this rifle package, how did it do for me? Well, to create context, I ended up heading out to the K&M Comprehensive Precision Rifle Course, a 4-day rifle course out at the K&M Shooting Complex in Finger, Tennessee. Ended up taking this guy out there, but first, basically got it put together about a day or 2 before I was gonna fly out, and took it out to get it zeroed. I'm out here zeroing for the first time the Savage 110 Desert Tactical. Had it over at 50 yards, making sure it's going to be on paper. These are these first 3 rounds at the 100, making sure, basically walking it down, making adjustments on the optic, which is a Bushnell 4-16 Nitro. This is my first group I shot up here. Been shooting this stuff right here, which is the SIG 6.5 Creedmoor 140 grain open tip match ammo. This group right here, I think this is the furthest right here. So inside edge to outside edge is just shy of 0.75 inches, 0.73. And then this was my second group right here. And it looks like about 0.75 inches. So I got it zeroed. I'm gonna make sure everything's marked up, and tomorrow I fly out for a 4-day precision rifle course with said rifle. Over the course of that 4-day class, a couple things did crop up with respect to this optic. One thing was the turrets. They're capped. That's fine. It's fine in the sense that it has the reticle, which is the Mil deploy reticle. Inside the reticle, you have basically hash marks at 0.5 mils and 1 mil. So going down, 0.51, 0.52, 0.53, so on and so forth. And then you have dots basically moving out for windage in either direction. I found that to do a really good job for me. Granted, you have to do your part because you're just working with 1/2 mil increments. So you have to be able to kind of in your mind's eye figure out 0.2 mils in there, or maybe 0.8 mils, like where does that land? But if you can do your part, it absolutely does its part. I was impressed with the fact that dialing this optic seemed to be true. Reaching out to different distances to include 1,000 yards, basically dope, whatever the ballistic calculator said, put it right on target. Did a great job. The problem I ran into is these turrets, one, they're capped, not a big deal, take the caps off, but since they're not made to dial, there's no zero stop. Additionally, while you can float them back to zero, once you get a good zero on this, so any adjustments you put on them, you can easily just turn back to zero. That's great, but sometimes I would find when I would try and float them back to zero, it wouldn't want to go on zero. So it would kind of want to fall to one side or the other of zero. It is what it is. Also the adjustments, the clicks, they're not super distinct, a little bit mushy. You kind of have to really pay attention. Easiest way to do it is basically a bold adjustment and then click back and kind of count back to where you need to be, if that makes sense. But again, keeping in mind how much this optic cost and the fact that it performs really well within the reticle, pretty solid. Throughout the course, I was honestly continuously impressed with this entire package. Never ran into any issues aside from my Magpul 7-round magazine. But as far as just mechanically feeding and everything, this Savage 110 did a great job for me. Barrel, it's a heavier barrel and it is absolutely accurate. After the fact, I ended up going and do some accuracy testing. Show you that in a minute. One issue I did run into with this is it's a relatively light package. The rifle itself, slick, weighs right around, I think, 8 3/4 pounds. This optic is around like 24 ounces, and it really is pretty light when you think about kind of a precision rifle. And in that course, I did not have a muzzle brake on it. I was running it just with the barrel as it came with thread protector on there. One of the things I ran into was, one, having a comfortable amount of magnification, and at the same time being able to see my impacts. Because what would happen with this package being relatively light without running a muzzle brake on it is it would move. And I didn't want to completely compromise my shooting positions, my fundamentals, by loading my bipod a bunch And so lots of times I would come off and I wouldn't see my impact. That, I will say, after the fact, is pretty much mitigated by using a muzzle brake. After coming back from that course and running into the issue of this being a light package and moving, coming off of my optic, not seeing impacts, reached out to my buddy Chris over at Surefire. He sent me this guy out. Great muzzle brake. Can you get a better muzzle brake for a precision rifle? Probably. Can you get a better one that interfaces with a Surefire suppressor? No. This actually does a really good job mitigating basically that recoil, allowing you to stay on target and see where those impacts are. And in addition to that, it allows me to throw this guy on there, my Surefire SOCOM 7.62 Mini. Using this, it's actually really nice. Behind this gun, with this on there, really pleasant to shoot. It's maybe not hearing safe. I don't know how many decibels coming out of it, but honestly, behind the gun, you can shoot this thing all day long and your ears aren't ringing. It's actually really pleasant. Also, if you haven't shot like a bolt gun suppressed, basically turns your recoil from something kind of snappy into just a push. Again, helping you stay on target and being able to see those impacts. Here's my first two groups I shot with my Surefire SOCOM 7.62 Mini can. This one on the left I shot first, this being the Gorilla 142 grain Sierra Match Kings. Looks like I think this will probably be the furthest. Gonna be outside edge, inside edge, those 5 rounds. About 0.73 inches. This right here was with Federal Gold Medal Match, 140 grain Sierra Match Kings. I don't know if that was a flyer, but it's there. So outside to inside on that group, looking at 0.79 inches, but a little bit of shift when I threw the can on there. I rounded out today with some Federal Gold Medal Match, 140 grain, shooting suppressed with Surefire SOCOM 7.62 Mini. And right here, this is my first group, second group, third group, fourth group. Starting up here, I think this is probably my furthest right here. Outside edge, inside edge, looking at about 0.71. Over here, second group, probably gonna be my furthest here. Outside, inside, looking at 0.88. And then, fortunately, I was actually filming this group right here. Had my camera down here, shot my rounds, came down. I was like, damn it. Did I only shoot 4? Do I need to go shoot what would be 6? Reviewed the footage. I actually have 4 rounds across here, and then that 5th guy over there. Wish I could discount him, but I can't. So that guy right there. With that, looking at 0.85 or, sorry, 0.84. Last group right here, I fell apart. I don't know. Probably part of that is 1, me fatiguing, and 2, Mirage. I don't have a suppressor cover, but that's probably my furthest here. That group is measuring about 1.28 across there, but that's what I got. Coming away from that course and the other shooting I've done with this rifle, Really impressed with this package. Everything about it has absolutely performed for me. The rifle itself, incredibly accurate. I've gotten, as long as I'm doing my part, basically consistently holding about 3/4 inch groups with match grade ammo. I can't ask for anything more. That's probably right around my limitation as a shooter. While you don't have the exposed adjustable turrets on this, I actually like this optic. The Mil Reticle allows you to pretty much, again, takes a little getting used to as far as being able to wrap your head around finding those 0.1 mil increments, because it's just marked at 0.51, 0.52. But once you kind of get your head around that, it's actually really easy to do all your work inside the reticle. Side note, still super impressed with these Tasco rings. I got them all torqued down. They haven't moved. Marked everything, my little Sharpie paint marker. Things have done an incredible job for me. As far as this sling, it works. I mean, it allows you to carry it. Also pretty easily adjustable. I've used it to get into some different shooting positions, even though I do a lot of positional work with slings, but it lends itself to that as well. This bipod, sub 20 bucks on Amazon. It works, it does what it's supposed to. It doesn't have any adjustment there. I feel like the cant is probably off a tiny bit, but it works with respect to a bipod. I made it work for me. Overall, incredible package, I think personally, for that money. If you're looking at getting into long range precision shooting, I would take a hard look at this setup. This, pretty much a turnkey package right out the gate, take you out to 1,000 yards. And in addition to that, you're not getting something that you immediately have to upgrade. You don't buy a Savage rifle and have to throw the stock away immediately. It's already free floated, does a good job, adjustable comb, adjustable length of pull, lots of value in this package. If you have experience with it, whether this rifle, optic, or other things, let me know down in the comments, and thanks for joining us over at TFBTV.